I'm thinking about changing it for real.
Is that your middle name?
Jason is my real middle name. I just use Alexander as
Changing
my
your
middle
name
name.
is easy.
I changed my name like fake without talking to Uncle Sam, and then I just use it as my real name, like my real first name.
Actually, there's nothing wrong with that.
No?
But there's a way to do it that's pretty easy.
All right. Well, what does that cost me? Should I go to a bargain basement firm for that service?
No, forms. I'll give you the forms. It's
just
just that you
fill them
gotta
out.
pay the filing fee with the court.
It's easy.
Yeah. It's very
I'm not like
simple.
trying to hide from my debt or anything. I mean, I do probably have 20 grand in debt up there
Well,
somewhere.
you have to put a notice in the newspaper, but you don't go to the Buffalo News. You go to like the Cheektowaga Times or something like that.
Yeah, I
Something
could buy
cheap.
my own advertisement, like a funny like quarter page. Like I'm trying to give everybody my mother's money because while trying to succeed at the same time, but in a strange way. Because then I think I can go for profit for a while. I can say I'm starting a real. If I fail with this 40 grand, I can start a company. I've got a dozen ideas. Some of them are really fucking good. And if I play the game normally, I don't think I'll have any problem like networking myself through all sorts of people in the city and capitalizing what I'm trying to do.
All right. Well, you said you want a will.
I'd like a will.
Okay.
Man,
There's two kinds of will. There's a regular will, and then there's with a living will. in case
living
you-
covers regular.
No, it's a separate.
both.
The living will is a separate document that is a standard form. And
Okay.
I can just print that out and give it to you. And it's the reason they want a standard form is that way it's good at any hospital or anything like that.
All right,
You
boom, this
you
is
put in
legit.
there. You write your wishes the way you want it. So
How to be treated.
yeah, if you want no matter what to be treated so you can, as long as you can be Stephen Hawking and go like this, that's your pleasure. If you
Or
don't
can
want
say
that,
no
Right.
resuscitation. Like,
right. So I'll just give you the
It's a
form
tough
for that.
call,
You can
those
think
things.
about it. Yeah, well, who knows in the future? But that's just usually when you go, if you get treated in the hospital, they'll ask if you have one. It's just better that you can designate somebody you trust in case let's say you get in a car accident or something and you can't respond.
Could I?
That
like,
way, it's better than having the court. Otherwise, the doctors have to go to the court.
right. That
and
sucks.
So it's better to pick somebody you want.
Could I have a trust and a trustee, but where it says, all right, this person is responsible for me, but if I'm in this set of conditions for 5 years, like,
Yeah,
just pull the plug.
Sure.
Like they don't even. I'm not going to wait for them if they. So you do both, right? Like
Yeah.
my mom's were like, my dad can sort of do. He has to give this much, but he can really sort of do
right.
what he wants at the same time. So a regular will.
Okay.
All I have right now. This is the thing. Things are going to change, right? So I don't know how to do this because right now all I have is like I got a nicotine tablet in here. Keeps me a little calmer. All I have really right now is thousands of hours of audio and video, which I really want to give away. Like so, I have to figure out what do I do to protect my daughter? Like, what kind of rights can I give to her? For everything. Where I die, whenever this happens. Hopefully, it's at this. I used to want to kill myself for years, and I couldn't because I was afraid of hell. But now I have kids, and even if I wanted to, it's just not an option except through cigarettes. And even at that, I am spending about $300 on an electronic cigarette tonight, which might protect me from the death for a while. So I want something to be there for her. If it's like, if anyone wants to use that video ever, or a company's built from it, or any of those ideas are patented, like that she gets
Sure.
something.
That's easy.
Okay, good.
There's two things you do in a will. One is anything specific, any property you want, even the smallest thing, even if it's just like a coin that you like. You can name anything specific and say this person gets it.
Okay.
The rest, what you call the remainder, the residue of your estate, you can leave to your kids. You can split it. You can do it any way you want.
Start a foundation.
Yeah.
Now,
So-
now this is where it might.
That's why I call it your will and testament. It's up to you. That's the reason you do it. So
I'll take
I'll
Jerry's
give
as well.
I'll give you a form for that too, and then you can just mark it up and give me your notes, and then we'll
All
type
right.
it up, go over it, and then what you'd have to do is come down to the office, and you have to have 2 witnesses, and we go through a little ceremony. They used to do sealing wax and all that crap. We don't have to do that. You don't have a will now, do you?
Nope.
Okay.
What I want to have, if possible, I don't know how much you can do to help with this part. I want to set it up so that if something happens to me suddenly, if anything happens to me and I can't wrap up,
Sure.
my life, I want there to be a way to sell my will. Like, I want to have the best-selling will of all time. This is a little off the beaten path, but I do want to have it available for sale. I mean, I don't know if you have a clue how
Copyright
to.
it.
Okay, copyright it, but and then when a person, this is like it's more complicated. I want if 1,000 people were to buy my will, right? It goes for publishing. People are like that's awesome. Like I want to give them control of a corporation equal to 1 divided by the number of the people who buy the will. So people might look and say, this dude's got a lot of ideas. Like we can, now that he's out of the way, we can really build a company. And if I buy a copy of this will, I'm pretty much just buying a share in the company because maybe legally we've figured out how to do
You mean
that.
a company that to be formed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Formed by like the first person that buys a copy of the will.
Well, you can have your executor form
Okay.
a corporation, and then when people come in, they get
All
a
right.
share.
And he wouldn't even have to, I wouldn't even want him to have a vote. You know, he might have
No, he
some-
doesn't have to vote.
he could have a veto on maybe a new person. Like I don't think that you could put conditions in a will, right? Like
Sure.
okay, I mean people don't usually do that, right? I mean I've heard of wills like forming foundations, but a will that actually is the means of access to a
I want a
democratic.
foundation created for this. The corporation's the same thing. You can call it a non-profit corporation. You call it for-profit.
And these are my rules. Like these are the rules, right?
Right.
The bylaws or whatever it
Right.
is that you. Good. So none of that seems too difficult. I mean, like, there's probably some complexity at some point, right? When you're
Well, I mean,
democracy.
there are a bunch of different rules in wills. There's one that goes back to the days of the Magna Carta. It's called the rule against perpetuities. You can't control
Everything forever.
property forever beyond any life and being at the time you die. So that might, let's say, you have a 2-year-old kid plus 21 years.
Until they die, plus 21 years.
Yes. So you have to put that.
And then you have to
clause
let
in.
go. Like it has to freely be.
Well,
given.
otherwise, that's how the English
Passing
feudal
on
system
thousands of
created it.
years.
Yeah, that's how they controlled other property. So the idea is that they want to have property free to convey, and if you have all these restrictions on it, property can't be conveyed.
It's a bog.
So it's just like a throw-in you got to put in every will.
I mean, I would just hope to start the company, even if it's upon my death. Like if the trustee says one person buys a copy, he sets it on the internet. I've got links for him and shit.
You have
like
a name
that.
for the company yet? It's okay. You don't have.
No, well, I do, but it's crazy.
So what?
It's spelled DEMOCRAZY. I don't know how to pronounce it exactly yet. There might be a contest. I call it democracy with a Z. And it's basically saying that I'm trying to build a full-on democratic corporation, which shape is determined by its constitution and by its bylaws, right?
Okay.
Like it's a unique type of democracy that I think would work better than other democracies, and which eventually, in fiction, first could be exported to other countries. Like I hope one day to take democracy, prove it as a business, like a model of like international business administration, and then take it to the people of Africa, like and say, hey, we can offer you a transparent continental democracy with constitutions customized for you, safeguards against tyranny, and if you need, we can even bring in mercenaries. I'm talking about film. Like, I believe in the United States of Africa. I think that the United States of America is going to go broke, and the United States of Africa is literally going to buy the copyright to USA. And in the film, it's pretty funny the day when the U.S. actually is so broke that they have to sell USA as a name that they have rights to. Like, USA is not
pretty
Africa.
much halfway there. We sold it to China.
Not the name yet. I mean, like, the name on the bills.
The U.S. Treasury. When the stock market crashed, the price of Treasury bills went up because the Chinese bought like crazy. Now, you want
What's a fire sale?
Democracy
I mean,
Inc. or Democracy Limited? You got to use
Limited
one.
sounds
British.
limited. Those are the only choices.
Yeah.
For like a
Or LLC, but that's a limited liability company. That's
what's wrong with that? I mean, you
nothing.
gotta pay double taxes or
No,
something.
it's to avoid double taxes. And there's two kinds of corporations. There's one called an S corporation, and that it's a flow through so that you don't pay double taxes.
Alright.
Then there's a traditional corporation is a C corporation. A C corporation, the letters just stand for Internal Revenue Code. It's a
Alright,
subdivision. So, like DuPont is a C corporation, but somebody's corporation that owns let's say 3 or 4 buildings and they rent it out, that could be an S corporation, or what people use now is an LLC.
Scorp.
LLC is a limited liability company. It's like a partnership, but you have the protection of a corporation.
And what do you think? Say that I'm worried about in a year after I start, I want 3,000 people to be able to run this company.
I would do
and own
it.
shares.
Then you want a regular C corporation.
C corp, nonprofit.
Well, nonprofit's different.
Nonprofit. No,
This
is not supposed to profit. Like I want to build cities and I want to manufacture in my dreams, but
nonprofit's a little bit more complicated because you got to get approval from the attorney general and all this other stuff.
Even if you're doing it without asking for tax breaks right away, I mean, you can form a nonprofit like that.
Sure.
The tax breaks are what you need the approval for.
Well, you got to put it. The tax. If you want to be what's called a 501c3 company, again, that's more Internal Revenue Code stuff. You got to apply for that status and wait for it. If you want to be but under New York law, when you apply for a nonprofit, you just have to give the Attorney General notice of it. And unless you're out there doing some huge fundraising right away, they'll just approve it.
It's cool.
It's easy.
And then you can start the process, say over time, like we would like to be a 501c. What do we fill out for that? What kind of behavior do we have to exhibit? Blah, blah, before you will...
Right. But when you set up a nonprofit corporation, you've got to have a board of directors. It can't just be you.
Great. Well, I don't have to be a part of it at all, right? Like, I could have the rights to be in the board of directors meetings and not give myself a vote, right? Because, like 12 angry men, like 13 angry directors. No, we're not... if we do that, I hope you're in that room. I hope you and Guy are in that room with 13 people, because it'll be funny. You'll be getting paid, at least up front. Maybe the film will make a lot of money and you guys will be able to buy a sailing yacht, but it'll be like a lot of intelligent people.
I'm not a water person, or Alex.
How about this? This is what I want to do. I want to go into Buffalo, I want to buy a lot, right? And I want to dig a pond in the lot, and I want to protect it from kids drowning, but then I want to live in a sailboat in a pond on a lot.
Okay.
Just to be strange for my neighbors to be like, the guy next to me, he lives in an amazing sailboat that floats in the pond that he built as a foundation for his sailboat.
I'll bet you could find somebody out in California who did that just to avoid having to pay taxes on the real property.
That'd be funny as shit, right? It's all about paying no taxes. It's not. I don't want to pay taxes if other people doing similar things don't have to. I mean, eventually, of course, if I start manufacturing components and putting them together as cities over agricultural farmland, like, they're probably going to want some tax money from me, but I'll be like, listen, we are not a for-profit. There is no profit.
Right.
Nobody gets money back. I mean, if you restrict the flow of money, like you invest $100 or you give $100 to my nonprofit, and we never or any company.
Well, here's what you do: you set up the nonprofit, and then if it gets going, and you want to do it so that people can give tax write-offs, then you got to apply for the tax thing. That's how you get more money. But it's a gradual thing. You can't do that right away because nobody will know who you are. So you got to build the work first.
No, there's something in between. There's a hybrid. What I really want to be able to do, I guess, ideally, would be to come to you, hand you a catalog of ideas, right, and be like, our company's accepting investments for any one of these, and if you like one, if you like this table, you can give the company, you can invest $100 in the nonprofit.
Doesn't work
to cover, but there's got to be something that eventually it'll work this way.
Here's the problem, because once you start asking people to invest in your company, now you got the securities laws in play.
What if I'm never giving them money back?
Doesn't matter.
What if they're just buying a table?
It depends on what the definition of, quote, a security is, under the federal law and under the state law.
All right.
Whenever you're giving somebody a piece of a pie, that's how hedge funds and all these other things start out.
Right.
And then what happened was they finally bust them up because they got so big. And
right.
What you have to do when you do that is, if you're offering it to a limited universe of people, there's an exemption. You don't have to register. If you're offering it to a larger pool of people, you have to go to the state attorney general, if it's in the state, and get their approval. In other words, you have to say, here's my plan, here's what I want to do, here's who I'm going to go after. They will tweak that a little bit and say, you got to say this, you got to, because you have to have disclosure saying this is a risky investment. You might not, what money you put in, you're not going to get back.
Well, I am saying that. I'm saying.
Well, it's okay.
I don't want an investment.
The fact that it's a security doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It just means that there are certain disclosures you have to put on any documents you give to anybody.
Okay.
So you can't just go. You just you can give whatever disclosures you want. But a lot of law firms, bigger operations, these law firms make a
Fortune
cajillion
on it.
dollars with these disclosures.
Perfect disclosure.
They have, guys right out of law school that they're billing out at $1,000 an hour, putting together.
It's like a bulletproof cape on their back. Like
Yeah,
that
all they
disclosure.
do is basically plagiarize